Good morning, good morning. Hoojies Garage here again. Look at this. A Porsche 356 last model year. Built late in 64, so I would think it's a model year 65 then. So SC with the 95 horsepower engine, disc brakes and so on. There were some 76,356 built over the years. Now people believe that maybe 50% of them are still in existence, which isn't bad because they're getting very old. Now, what's special with this car, I mean 356s, there are cars here and there of course. This one has never changed owner. Yes. So it's a one owner car, and the guy that has it is is waiting to show it for me, so to speak, or let's say like this. He offered me to go for a test drive, and will I accept that? Yes, I will indeed. I have driven quite a few Porsches over the years, but never a 356. So I am really curious on how this thing goes. Now, just first a little history of the car then. So he bought it in Sweden in 64. He drove it as a daily driver until 75, when his third child was born. Then this little rear seat wasn't enough, but he drove it winter and summer and rain and I don't know what. So how come that the car still is in this condition? Well, what he did was that he rust-proofed it, or sprayed lots of oil underneath already in the beginning and every now and then over those years. So when he parked the car in 75, because he did that, you know, he this is another car he has just parked it here, and he doesn't really sell his cars. So then let me think now. Yes, so he parked it here for 20 years, no, not quite 20 years, 18 years or something. And then in the early 90s he started to look at it and he said, well, 80,000 kilometers, not too bad. So he made a restoration of the car. It has a respray, indeed, yes, because the paint now is really immaculate, I would say. There was a little bit of welding done, something under the battery and over the, what do you say, exhaust system nearby. There's some beam there, and some little thing in some attachment to the bumper or something like that. So interior looks really super. So yeah. By the way, but he had to do some restoration already when he was driving the car, because in Sweden in those days there were quite a bit of gravel roads also, not everything was tarmac. So the engine had taken in a bit of sand and dust and so on through the air filter, because the air filter, the original air filter for this one, is a bit of a joke. It's, I don't know if he has a filter laying here. No, but it's just a metal mesh that you should oil, and that doesn't really work. So in 73, after some 60,000 kilometers, the engine started to consume oil, and he had to take it to a workshop, and they bought new cylinders and pistons, and they changed the valve guides in the cylinder head, and probably got the valves ground in or seated properly. So the engine has a restoration, but it's an original old restoration, and it still runs with that engine. So really something. Just before taking off, I just want to show you the engine. This looks a bit funny because these are then the modified 912 air filters. The owner didn't want to use the original ones after having done that restoration back in 73. But of course the engine is based on a Volkswagen engine, or let's say like this, the Volkswagen engine is a Porsche engine because he designed it. Originally these engines were just 1100cc because, well, the first Volkswagen engine was just above 1100, but Porsche wanted to compete in an 1100 class, so they made the engine slightly smaller initially. Then it evolved up into 1300, 1500, and here's the last evolution then of the engine, 1600cc and the 95 brake horsepower. So not too bad, right? Let's see how it starts. Now there's one little thing that I had no idea about the 356, and it is that it has a gear lock. It's almost like an old Saab. Interesting little detail. Otherwise, you see the car is really in a super good condition here. Look at this. Stretching for a safety belt, but there is no safety belts whatsoever. No. All right. And the feel of the door, for instance, is extremely solid. It closes really, really nicely. So let's see here. Standing pedals, of course. I have driven a few different Porsches, and the most different one was the 959. Yes, but never a 356. This is the first time. Interesting. So key to the left. 6-volt system, I believe. Yeah. Listening. This is funny sound. Do you know what it is that makes this like a, what should you call it? I can't describe the sound. The owner says this is the way they sound. A bit of light, maybe. Which one? Use. Up. Good. Then we're good to go. And fan, maybe. We're fogging up a bit. Fläkt.
Det är motorfläkten.
Det kommer när man varvar. Okay. You see, it's fogging up a bit. It's a very cold morning. It's like -2. Sven Hugo and I have been out in this car before, and it was -16. But it generates more heat than a Volkswagen from that era. But maybe I should open this one up for a little while. So reversing and out on the street. No one here. So very compact, small car. One is like that, I would think. Ettan som vanligt. Yep, takes off well. Exterior mirrors. That came a few years later. It was not mandatory in the 60s. I think it started to become mandatory at the end of the 60s. Here are a few chicanes. Just need to check that there's no ice on the road because it's been below freezing. The roads seem to be dry though. Sven Hugo drove this car all year round, also in the winter. There was no issues really, it was behaving well. Tires were just, how should I say, summer tires with a good thread pattern or deep thread pattern. No issues, you manage, you got the weight of the driving wheel, so it works fine. To get the hang of it. The Sven Hugo thinks that I should push it a bit harder, but I'm a bit careful. but sometimes I've been touching 4,000 RPM at least. Steering, yeah, it's not rack and pinion. It's kind of a warm gear, but it's not bad. It works. It works quite fine. Shifting is, you need to get used to the third gear, but otherwise it works fine also. I must say I'm starting to enjoy this more and more. It's really a fun car. Some car, really entertaining to drive. Sven-Hugo, you have some papers you wanted to show?
Yeah.
Sven-Hugo has had this car now for almost 60 years, and you have all the documents from inspections, see, for all the years, and some summary of the history of the car, so really something. So, Sven-Hugo, lots of thanks to you. This has been really an interesting morning. And that's all from Hoojies Garage today. Take care. Bye bye.